Folks, let's get this show on the road. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Winnetka Village Council regular meeting for August 15th, 2023. I'd like to call the meeting to order, ask everybody to mute your cell phones or other electronic devices, please. And I'll ask Rob to do a roll call for attendance.
Thank you. Trustee Dahlman? Here. Trustee Albinson?
Here.
Trustee Dearborn? Here. Trustee Apatow?
Here.
Trustee Handler's not here yet. President Rintz?
Here. Okay, item 2 is the Pledge of Allegiance, and I'll lead us this evening. Thank you. All right, quorum check. Rob, you want to go ahead and check?
The month of September, the 5th, the 12th, and the 19th. Are there any conflicts? Yeah. No conflicts. Okay. All good?
Conflicts.
Trustee Apatow?
I'm good. If the 19th is possible, I think I'm still good. I moved my trip back, so I
Okay.
think we're good.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, quorum's taken care of. Item 4 is public comment. This is the time of the evening when anyone here in the audience may address Village Council on any item that is not on the agenda. So if you're here to speak on, what do we got here? The special use permit for Compass, or what's the other one? Or the, oh yeah, the LPC's adding a student to that. If you're not here to talk about those, if you're here, you can approach, if you're here to talk on those things, you wait. If you want to talk about anything else, come on up to the microphone. Would anybody like to speak this evening?
I just would like to mention that,
Come on up.
well, we got the nice financial report from you good people, and I just thought I'd mention that you left out the name of the auditor, Lauterbach and Amen of Naperville. So perhaps in any future financial reports which are beneficial to all of us in the village and yourselves, you may want to include the auditor report, not the entire report, but at least the name and location of the auditor, which is, in this case, Lauterbach and Amen LLP of Naperville, Illinois. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Anybody else like to speak this evening? Seeing none, I will close public comment. We'll move forward to reports. Trustees, Rob, do you have any report tonight? Rob?
No report.
Kurt?
No report.
Tina?
No report.
Okay. Village attorney?
No report.
Village manager?
No report this evening.
Village president? I have no report this evening. I can always talk, but I won't. Okay, item 6 is presentations. This is the Environmental and Forestry Commission Green Awards. For the past 6 years, the EFC has administered the annual Green Awards program recognizing sustainable and environmentally friendly practices. Public Works Analyst and EFC Staff Liaison Diana Puga is here this evening to walk us through. Take it away, Diana.
Thank you, President Rintz. Good evening, Village Council and Village Manager Bayhan. The Green Award recipients are chosen based on the following categories: green buildings, recycling and waste reduction, land, air, water and stormwater, energy, and sustainable communities. And this year, the award will be presented to New Trier Township High School, located in Winnetka. New Trier Township High School was selected as the recipient for its efforts in climate, energy, leadership, and sustainable communities. New Trier's Facilities Project was awarded a Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design, also known as LEED Gold. This is the second highest achievement by the U.S. Green Building Council and is a recognized symbol of sustainable achievement and leadership. New Trier campus earned this award by reducing water use for their new building, having on-site renewable energy, light pollution reduction, green roofs with functioning patios, and implementing composting in their cafeterias.
Great. Thanks, Diana. What do we do next?
Yes, we do have representatives from New Trier Township today to accept this award.
Awesome. Would you like to present it to them? That would be great. Come on up, guys.
I'm so sorry I knocked this out.
Well, they brought out the heavyweights tonight.
Thank you, David. So on behalf of the EFC, congratulations.
Chris, good seeing you. And if anybody hasn't had the opportunity to go over there and visit both of
Thank you.
the new pieces, you should really check it out. I mean, the latest edition is just amazing if you haven't been there, and it's definitely worth a trip. I'm sure Rob or somebody on staff could organize something if you guys are interested in going. Hey, Kim.
I think there's an open house coming up, right? We received something, because I don't think the high school just wants people just wandering.
Chris, do you want to?
Right.
I would just wander around.
Well, I know, but there's.
No, I'm
pretty
saying to arrange something through the village.
Yes,
I'd like that.
but I think there is an open house we received notice of coming up.
We have an open house September 9th, ribbon cutting from 2 to 4 p.m., so the whole community is invited. There's a brief ceremony at 2 p.m. and then self-guided tour. So we'd love to welcome everyone from Winnetka to that,
Awesome.
whether you have students or not at New Trier. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll be there. Thanks, Chris. Okay, item 7 this evening is the establishment of the consent agenda. Does any trustee wish to remove an item on the consent agenda for a separate vote? Seeing none, may I have a motion to approve the final form of the consent agenda?
So moved.
Voice vote, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Okay, item 8 this evening is the approval of the consent agenda, and I'll ask the village clerk to read the items on the consent agenda.
Thank you. Approval of Village Council minutes for the July 6, 2023 regular meeting and the July 11, 2023 study session. Approval of the warrant list dated July 17, 2023 through July 31, 2023 in the amount of $2,384,649.32. Resolution number R76, 2023, approving the purchase of a new Public Works Kubota utility tractor vehicle refuse scooter for adoption, and resolution number R77, 2023, waiving competitive bidding and awarding a contract to Leopardo Construction Incorporated for the repair of the Village Hall bell tower.
Thanks, Rob. Okay, may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda by omnibus vote?
So moved.
Second.
We got a second somewhere there. Roll call vote.
Trustee Handler?
Yes.
Trustee Apatow?
Yes.
Trustee Dahlman?
Yes.
Trustee Alvinson?
Yes.
Trustee Dearborn?
Yes.
That motion carries. Thank you. Okay, moving on to item 9, ordinances and resolutions. Our first item tonight is ordinance number MC 10, 2023, amending Chapter 3.40 of the Winnetka Village Code regarding the Landmark Preservation Commission. This is up for introduction and adoption if you all wish. Council will consider the addition of a non-voting student member position to the Landmark Preservation Commission. Does anybody speak on this? You guys have any questions or comments, or
No, I think we discussed it a little bit at the last meeting, or 2 meetings ago.
so we good with this? This is, for those that weren't involved in the earlier discussion, we're adding a student rep to the Landmark Preservation Commission. A young man has been attending our meetings regularly and was interested in actually being an active participant in the meetings. And it makes sense. Anytime we can reach out to our grade schools or high schools and bring people into the process, I think it's a wonderful thing. So what do we think about waiving introduction on this? We got one okay, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay. So we will be waiving intro, and this is where I always get in trouble. If waiving intro. Okay. Do I have a motion to waive the introduction of ordinance number MC 10, 2023?
So moved.
Second.
Voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that motion carries. Now may I have a motion to adopt ordinance number MC10, 2023?
Second.
That's a roll call vote.
Yes. Trustee Dearborn.
Yes.
Trustee Apatow.
Yes.
Trustee Handler.
Yes.
Trustee Albinson.
Yes.
Trustee Dahlman.
Yes.
That motion carries. Thank you. I think I can use one of those. Okay, item B this evening. Ordinance number M13, 2023, granting a special use permit for the operation of a real estate office within the C2 Commercial Overlay District. This is for Compass Realty at 564 Lincoln Avenue. Compass Realty will be relocating its current real estate office located at 851 Spruce and is requesting approval of a special use permit. And our Community Development Director, David Schoen, is here today to run through this with us.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. The subject property is a commercial space located in a mixed-use building on Lincoln. The building is commonly referred to as the Winnetka Galleria. As this map indicates, a portion of the property is located in the overlay district, which allows real estate offices, but only by special use approval. The applicant proposes to locate from its current space on Spruce into this space on Lincoln. Compass had previously occupied approximately 1,500 square feet of commercial space on the east side of Lincoln Avenue. And that was in addition to the 3,000 square foot space they have on Spruce. They have since combined their offices to the Spruce location and are proposing to occupy approximately 4,500 square feet in the subject space, which is currently unoccupied and approximately half the size of the previous tenant that was in this space, which was Coldwell Banker. The images here show the location of the property and the adjacent businesses. The space is located, the space immediately south is vacant and previously occupied by T.J. Cullen Jewelers. And then on the north side is a business called Beauty Lash. It's on the other side of the courtyard. Other neighboring businesses include Beat Street and a new restaurant called Deep Purple, both located to the south. This image shows how the applicant proposes to use the space. As described in the applicant's written explanation, the office would be staffed by a receptionist and an office sales manager, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. Also, then agents would come and go. Compass currently has 50 agents who call the Winnetka location their home office. The applicant will describe in more detail the daily activity, but in summary, their application stated that about 5 to 10 people would work in the office throughout the day, with the most agents coming to the office, with most agents coming to the office 1 or 2 times a week for a couple of hours at a time. In terms of parking, Compass has indicated its lease agreement includes 8 parking spaces in the lower level of the building. And then with 5 to 10 people working in the office on a typical day and 8 parking spaces available, they feel that in general, those spaces will meet their demand. However, when demand exceeds 8, they will use the public parking lot located to the north off of Lincoln. That lot does include A permit parking spaces, which are for employees of the business district to get permits and to park in. Compass has indicated they will seek retailers to use the front portion of the space, similar to Coldwell Banker, what they had proposed, but they prefer to go with finding tenants on a little longer term basis, and I'll let them elaborate on that. When not utilizing the space, they will by a third party. They will occupy the space as a Compass Boutique, and the applicant can elaborate on what goods could be purchased there. So on the map here, highlighted in blue would be the location of the retail area for third parties to lease. And to give you reference, the red line represents the boundary of the overlay district. So it's that portion to the right that requires special use approval. To the left, the applicant could occupy that space by right, but because they wanted to occupy that portion in the overlay, they're before you this evening. So on July 13th, the Plan Commission reviewed the application and by a vote of 4-2, recommended approval. Just note, we have not received any written or verbal public comments on the application. And then those who voted in favor of the recommendation felt that this location, which was more on the edge of the overlay district on Lincoln, was appropriate for this type of use. And there was discussion about parking, and they felt the addition of the area within the overlay district would not lead to a diminishment in parking in the area. Those who voted against the motion to recommend approval, they believe in this particular location that there could be a use that would provide more vitality to the business district than they believe a real estate office as proposed would do. So in your agenda packet on page 41, there is a draft ordinance. Section 3 of that ordinance, which is on page 42, it contains the applicant's proposed conditions for the retail area. Since the Plan Commission meeting, the applicant has provided some additional information that was included in your packet, and I will let the applicant elaborate on that. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions now or after you hear from the applicant.
Any questions for David at this point? Sure.
So David, a couple questions. One, and just I was interested in the comment on the cover memo that Liz obviously has been active trying to find tenants, introduce tenants to the owner of the building and so on. Nothing came. What are the limitations in your judgment? What sort of kept something from happening in terms of those introductions? Why was there no follow-up interest in that space?
I think part of the issue was the size of the entire space at that time when they were leasing it. Since then, the property owner has divided the space, so it's not all 8,000, 9,000 square feet that Compass is leasing. And then just users in the end determining that that was a good space for them wanting to locate there. But again, the space had been vacant for a little over a year.
Do you know if the number of, or the percentage or whatever of the potential tenants would have required special uses? I mean, were there a number of introductions that would not have required special uses under the overlay ordinance?
I don't know the percentage. I just know that some would have, whether it was a medical sort of use or such, but I don't know what the percentage was.
And then my other question is across to the north, across the gallery area, there is a medical office. Would they have required special use in
Yes,
that
they-
location? So the medical office did have a special use permit granted?
Yes.
Okay, good, thank you.
Others? Okay.
One question, just to refresh myself, they will be leaving the current space altogether they have on the, is that street?
On Spruce,
On Spruce,
correct.
Spruce, yeah.
They are a tenant in that space, and I can let them elaborate on their move and timing of that move.
Okay, that's helpful, thank you.
Anybody else? Okay. Can we hear from the applicant then?
Let me move this down.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Cal Bernstein. I'm the attorney for the applicant. And to really jump into the questions that we've heard tonight with regard to their current location, they've lost their lease. And so they have to move, and that's what precipitated this this application. After listening to the comments at the Plan Commission and hearing Trustee Dahlman's comments, which are in the minutes, we're ready just to jump into to address the concerns that were raised at the Plan Commission, specifically the lack of hearing from the landlord. So I know that would address the question that was asked by Trustee Dearborn regarding the efforts that were made to lease the property. So I'm going to turn it over to the landlord, and she can come up and describe what happened over the last year or so while the property remained vacant.
Sure.
Good evening, everybody. I know some are familiar. I am the property manager for Hoffman Commercial Real Estate. I've been with the company for about 6 years.
Do we have your name?
Jen Epstein. I just wanted to start and say, on behalf of Hoffman, thank you for everything up to this point. I apologize for a lack of presence at the last meeting. As everyone can see, I'm very close to being a mom of 2, so my evening time is very limited, and I figured that my presence would be much more important at this particular meeting. As you're aware, Compass, as well as its predecessor, were approved for a special use permit across the street located at 565 Lincoln Avenue. They temporarily consolidated over to Spruce, and now obviously they're looking for a new permanent space to have both of those offices combined. Coldwell Banker left the space. They had given us notice, I believe, in 2021. At that point, ownership did start working with our brokerage firm, Imperial Realty, to start marketing the space. As noted, it was a very large space. 8,000 square feet is a tough sell to anyone coming in, especially walking with applicants, which I've done through many of our properties. It takes a lot of a vision to figure out, looking at a space versus how can this transform into something different. To touch on some of Trustee Dearborn's questions, we had approximately 15 interested parties over the past 1.5 to 2 years looking at the space. Of those 15, only 4 of them would have been eligible as a true retail tenant. So you're looking at under a 25% interest outside of a special use permit being required. Additionally, that building is part of a condo association. So on top of the retail overlay restrictions, we also had association restrictions that we had to work within. Some of those items that are prohibited would be any type of restaurant that gets 20% of its revenue from food sales, any type of bar, wine, tavern type establishment where over 20% of gross revenue is from such business, any type of grocer, food market. So you really started to kind of dwindle down some of the potential tenants that were coming in looking. 2 of the 4 that were interested were restaurants and were automatically ineligible just under those condo declarations and bylaws as well. I know Liz Deschamps had been working with Hunter Gleber, who is our broker through Imperial Realty. They would kind of go back and forth. She would pass along any inquiries that she would get along to Hunter. Ultimately, I've got here uses that ranged from education. The note on that one was that the special use requirement deterred the prospect from pursuing the space. A Pilates studio, which would also be special use, the requirement deterred the prospect from pursuing. Tend Dental, same situation. We had an orthodontist that was interested in this space. Circle Lighting, which would have been one of those retail tenants, they felt that there was not enough foot traffic to support their business model. I know that's something that Celeria Veneta did kind of a pop-up concept in the vacancy over the holidays as they were doing a build-out for their permanent home in Hubbard Woods, which they felt had much more foot traffic geared to that retail shopping. You could tell by parking that it was a little bit harder to get spaces up there. It seemed the foot traffic had really turned around in the past year, I'd say. And so they had made several comments that They don't have a ton of people just popping in to shop. So that was something we heard from Circle Lighting, is that they didn't think that the location was the best fit for their business model. We had an interior design business. They ended up going to a second floor space located in Hubbard Woods. Orange Theory Fitness, they passed due to restrictions and lead time that it would take to get the space up and running. Lana Jewelry, who opened their retail location, was looking for office space, but she specifically wanted ground floor, which was not permitted in the front portion of the space. The Postal Service, I know that they're working towards an alternate property that works better for them as well. We had a furniture company that was looking for new space. Unfortunately, it wasn't within their budget to be able to lease. We had another restaurant that was prohibited by the bylaws. We had a hair concept dry bar that couldn't get their space plan to work. They were willing to work with a special usage, but they had specific requirements from a corporate standpoint that they needed to fit construction that weren't retrofitting into the architecture of the building. JP Morgan Chase looked at the space. They were probably the only other person that was willing to take on at least 4,000 square feet. And I think lease negotiations, timelines weren't working, and I know that they're actually looking at a different space as a temporary location while they redo the branch here. So hopefully that gives you just a little bit bigger of a picture of kind of what our efforts have been. We have been back and forth with Compass coming out of the pandemic. Leasing has been very interesting, to say the least. We feel like we've seen a lot of turnover downtown in the East Elm District, but I feel like we've had a lot of improvement with new retail concepts, new restaurants coming in. There's been a livelihood that hasn't been on that avenue since I've been working for Hoffman in the past 6 years that we see now. So while we have just a few vacancies, I think what Compass is proposing to do would be a great fit. We've talked a little bit regarding their retail concept. I'll let them talk about that a little bit more since they haven't had a chance to do that. But it's not necessarily a pop-up. I know Coldwell Banker sold it as a pop-up. Sometimes something was there, sometimes it was empty. I feel like they have more of a background of executing something like that and want to have something that's a little bit more permanent and established that might rotate to keep freshness, but it would be a permanent fixture, not something where you have these different businesses coming in and providing different elements. Does anyone have any other specific questions for ownership?
Questions for Jenna? Go ahead.
I noticed when I went into the Galleria, it looked like some of the space had been taken up in the rear from the Hoffman family of companies. When did they, I assume they've consolidated their space that they used to have in Wilmette and other places.
Exactly.
When did they take that space in the back?
It was earlier this spring.
Okay.
What's great is that back wing was already built out into executive-sized private offices. We did some paint, some flooring, cosmetic, just updating, and it was fairly move-in ready for us. We did occupy footage on Green Bay Road in Wilmette across from the train station. We had a chiropractor approach us that was very much interested in that location and space. They don't have any type of special use permitting that they have to go through for occupancy there. So with us having the availability at that point to kind of flex and move, we were able to take that back space without, again, needing a special use to house our corporate offices.
And then my other question is, did you ever look at, because I look at the floor plan, and I know this is a question for Compass as well, but there's not a lot of really heavy usage within the overlay area. Did you look at just carving out, I mean, because you've got this separate entrance, and we talked a little bit about this at Plan Commission. You have a separate entrance closer to where I guess the pantry copy is within the space, not within the courtyard, and just create, you know, that area that's within the overlay. Did you ever look at just kind of walling that off and essentially leasing it out in compliance with?
used to be that way. I think we purchased the building in 2017, 2018, and Coldwell Banker had already started the negotiations under the prior ownership group, and the application for special usage to take over that front portion. I believe there was an architecture firm that occupied the space in the front. So once that was truly demised, the way that it was demised, for it to become contingent with Coldwell Banker's existing space to make it truly feel like a whole real estate office, it's very hard for someone to come in and look at that and say, I can break it up like this, we can simply put up a wall here. They would absolutely be able to have an entrance off of the courtyard. I believe that we have that as kind of an option B backup plan if necessary. But I think the point was to try and get that same footprint between their two offices that they are consolidating together, whereas it would be closer to the space that they're currently occupying on Spruce, and they wouldn't be able to have that street presence that they did have in the smaller space across the street.
Okay, so I guess my question, though,
Sure.
is not about Coldwell Banker or Compass. I mean, did the Hoffman Realty Group look at trying to rent this in compliance with the overlay district?
We're always open to it.
I mean, because it's easy to, I mean, there's only one office there's a lot of huddle room and lost space, so I was just curious if, because
I think
a lot of blame being
Sure.
put on the special use, but if, that's a smaller space.
I think, quite honestly, and just across the board with leasing, we don't like to start making alterations to existing spaces without having a prospective tenant. If we were to split it up, that's potentially lost money, revenue out of our pocket if it were to make the space feel much smaller. If somebody wanted to take additional space in conjunction with that front retail portion, say they wanted to take 2,500 square feet and eat more into the middle portion, that if we were to demise it prior to marketing, it's kind of a double-edged sword. We also knew that TJ Cullen was coming up for renewal. That space is right next door. It's also 1,500 square feet, and it's much more of a blank canvas as well. So, I mean, it's not that it wasn't discussed or something to consider.
And then how big is that square footage, or maybe David knows, that's within the overlay district? Is it?
I believe it's approximately 1,100 to 1,200 fully, give or take.
Okay, and I'm just kind of curious, because you said something about Lana Jewelry not being able to be on a first floor?
They
their first
they
floor-
wanted street frontage. The other spaces that they toured, I know they looked at a
They're in
space.
Hubbard Woods right now.
That's their retail location. They were looking for office space.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it. Okay, thank you.
Of course.
Those are all my questions.
Okay.
Go ahead, Kim.
Sort of just building up there, or just to confirm, the proposal here for retail, is that's not defined necessarily by the owner of the property, it's designed by the potential tenant, and that could change?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
And again, this might be a question for the applicant, but the Compass will have a private entrance for their clients? Is that like right below the number 104 existing Jan? Or will customers come through retail to get to the Compass space?
I think that's truly up to Compass.
Okay.
Right now, I know that there's a secondary entrance located a little bit further west inside the courtyard that's not so obvious. That was Coldwell Banker's main entrance from the outside before they expanded forward. And so I know they kind of restricted access to that door to push traffic through the front door where they would have their retail pop-up concept. So I'm not sure what Compass's plan is, but they have the option to kind of either have clients go in one way. I would assume if they do have a retail component, they're going to want them to go through from the street front.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Well, this is okay. Come on back, Cal.
Okay, thank you. Well, we also heard at the Plan Commission, and with conversations with staff subsequent to the meeting last month, is that the village was looking for more of a clear and specific proposed use for that retail one-on-one area that we designated in our submittal. So I'm going to turn it over to Johnny from Compass, who will describe how that's going to operate and how he's going to operate the space.
Good evening. My name is Johnny Satz. I'm the Senior Director of Corporate Real Estate for Compass, and so I manage our corporate real estate portfolio across the country. I happen to live in Glenview here, so it's nice that I get to attend these in person. As has been mentioned, I think at the Planning Commission meeting, we received some great feedback that I think has made the space much better. We, I think by nature, looked at the previous special use that was granted, and for better or for worse, we use this phrase pop-up as a buzzword to describe what we may do with the front of the space to keep a more attractive retail environment that's consistent with the rest of the Lincoln Street there. But subsequent to that feedback, I think there was a couple things that we heard. One is some apprehension about the approval of the retail space in general, and potentially some regret in previously doing so, but also the pop-up nature, what happens when the pop-ups aren't operating, et cetera. And I think that's probably the last time you're going to hear that word pop up out of my mouth, because it's not actually something that we are really interested in having a quote-unquote pop-up. Okay, one more time. So what we really want to do with the space is have a retail tenant. It'll be a subtenant. And for all intents and purposes, we would like to have a tenant that complies with the special use district and contributes not only to the vibrancy of Lincoln, but contributes to the vibrancy of the Compass office. With the right retailer, it will not only comply with the overlay zone, it will be supportive and complementary to our business. And subsequent to the Planning Commission meeting, we did speak with potential retailers. There's a few in the packet, but one specifically, even up to the last few days ahead, that we are very excited about having is the Ann Lux Gallery. I imagine some of you are familiar with Ann. She has a beautiful gallery in Glencoe, and she and Compass have been chatting about this being her second location. So not a pop-up, her second location, and for those that don't know about her, she's been operating for 20 years. She has 50 artists on rotation, and she would like to use this as her second location to showcase one of her 50 artists, kind of rotating every 6 to 8 weeks, and operate it as she does her current gallery. And we couldn't be more thrilled to have such an amazing potential retailer in the front of that space. And I think also last time when we were here, we weren't detailed enough and probably showcased the pop-up being in a smaller portion of the front area. We want that to extend. Our intent is to showcase her art throughout the entirety of the front of the space. All we want to do is just retain the right to use the conference room and one of these offices, but we want the art to be everywhere, showcased everywhere, and for it to be for sale for potential customers. She has a email listserv of 4,000 potential clients. She has well-attended exhibitions. She has nighttime events. She has daytime events, and we would plan to replicate all of those at this space here. Our intent is to start with a one-year term with Ann and proceed based upon how the relationship is going. To what the landlord was saying, I think there is increased vibrancy on Lincoln even since we've, been in discussions on the space, and there wasn't a single phone call that we made that was met with a no. Everyone was very excited about potentially partnering with Compass, not only because it is a nice space on Lincoln, but they have potential customers not only in our Compass agents, but very high-end clientele coming to our office, and I think Ann presents a great complementary tenancy with Compass. She will plan to have someone on site there, not full-time, not 9 to 5 every day, but we're talking with her about how we can create our staff person up front to create a passive way that we make sure that we can service any clientele that comes in. She has an incredible amount of collateral should you go into her space, featuring her various different artists that we would like to showcase up front and just establish a nice retail environment. To the question on where would Compass clients enter, I think not only to, I think it would be supportive of the retail to have them enter the main space and walk through the gallery to what would be kind of we have to work out the details, whether it's a shared reception or point of sale checkout that we staff when they're not there. So in some sense, you would come in and come to that desk and then either enter the back of the Compass space or in the conference room if you're a client. But as noted in our application materials, it's actually fairly rare that clients come to the office nowadays. Most closings are done remotely or at a title office. I think that's all the specific details on the retail, other than, while we have Ann, obviously, something could happen, Ann goes away or it's not working out. And we would intend to fill that with longer-term subtenancies, marketing with not only in online platforms, but working with the village to fill potential vacancies. And because we are a fairly technology-forward company, we have what is known as this Compass Boutique online, and it's really a gifting center for agents to buy items for their clients. If you go to the Compass Boutique website, you will see everything from T-shirts, apparel, to luxury gift boxes, et cetera, that can be purchased through a link online. I think we would use that Compass Boutique offering to create a merchandising area in the front of the office in times of vacancy between retailers and replicate what appears to be a point of sale tenancy to the public, to make sure that the vibrancy of the retail and the overlay zone is mimicked in the front of our space. I think that's it on the specific pop-up retail. Can I answer any questions on the operation in general, what our ideas are for the retail tenancy?
Fire away, guys.
You want to?
Rob, go ahead.
Okay. So I see on this likely candidate, how likely is likely?
I think Ann is very likely. I think the only, we're pending approval, but pending approval, we need to work with her to understand the exact requirements of really just how we install the art and work on an agreement, and then proceed to move forward on a timeline for installation. She has a long-standing relationship with the folks that run our Compass office, and is very excited about the opportunity if we can get her in.
That's fine. That's good. 740 square feet of retail is what I see.
Correct.
You know how big her gallery is in Glencoe?
My guess is about double that size.
Okay. It's a little smaller gallery. Okay,
Yeah.
that's great. That's all.
What restrooms will they be able to use for the retail?
They can use, so in the subtenancy agreement, we'll effectively give them access and license area to use our kitchenette, and there is one single-use restroom past the first door, and then there are also common restrooms in the Galleria for the office tenancies. So I think both Compass, Hoffman, and retailer would have access to use of those restroom facilities. I don't think that those are shown. They may be shown in one of the old Coldwell Banker floor plans.
And you said you have sales meetings once a month? Is that?
They're once every other week.
Okay.
Right now.
And then I think one of the questions we talked about, because you have 50 agents associated with this office, but a large number of them actually participate virtually now, is that right?
Yeah, starting in 2020, we got very adept at running our sales meetings online. And so I think about half of folks attend virtually, half of folks attend in person. We want it to be a vibrant meeting where agents come together and share their insights on the market. I think the housing market's a little bit challenged right now, so maybe as it picks up, the pace of attendees will follow. But we have about half of the agents that attend virtually. And then also on an irregular basis, let's say on a quarterly basis, these agents and the rest of the North Shore offices, or Highland Park and Glenview, they will get together off-site for a joint sales meeting.
But on a daily basis, maybe 5 or 10 people in this?
I think you see 5 to 10 people on average kind of rotating in and out of the offices. All agent teams work a bit differently, but by nature of the profession, agents are out and about at showings, at listings, meeting with their clients. Some agents have teams where there are certain team members that are in the office more 9 to 5, but by nature, I think you see 5 to 15 people with an agent group of about 50 coming in and out of the office on a daily basis.
And one of the questions I have, because as you know, we run a sales office and it's all virtual now, but it seems like newer, younger agents are not as tied to the office, and it's maybe some of the more seasoned, experienced agents who may not be as technologically savvy. I mean, I guess I keep thinking this is a lot of space, right? And do you foresee that you're going to need this space for a long time, or is this something that's likely to come back to us?
I think in general, as of even, you'll see after Labor Day, if you looked at Compass's PR and everything, we are pushing agents back into the office because we think that in-person collaboration and training and support and creating this community is just incredibly important to the success of our company and to the success of the agents. Now, we do have, on average, more seasoned and successful agents than other brokerages. It's actually a little bit inverse in the sense of, even though younger agents are maybe more technologically adept and could operate virtually, they derive a lot of their business from more seasoned agents. They want to learn from more seasoned agents. So they are the more frequent users in the office, coming to the sales meetings to network, learning our new technology that we come out with from people that will come in and train them. So while it may seem like a lot of space, we have been a bit underserved on space because we would love to grow, but we've been a little bit hamstrung by not only the size of the space, but if you were to go to either the offices, particularly Spruce Street, we would have loved to invest more capital in there and make it an office that we think is commensurate with our brand. But JP Morgan owns that space, and they would not lease to us long term because they always wanted the right to recapture it. So we felt that we couldn't invest the capital needed to make it an office that we would really want to be in long term, because we may not capture that return on the investment. So it's been hard to recruit because of just the size and condition of that office. So being able to come here, we actually think that there certainly will be growth over the coming years should we proceed with this location, and particularly have the retail component, which is really important to the agents. They strongly feel, we all strongly feel that we're part of the community, and we want to be thought of as that presence that is has the street side presence that's very approachable.
Okay, last question though. But gone are the days where people come into the office to sign the contracts, right? It's all signed by DocuSign. It's all sent by email. Right? That's
correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Others?
Just a couple questions, and just trying to reconcile some of the comments here with the draft ordinance. So on page 41, Peter, there's specific reference to pop-up space, and the conditions sort of get into more of the 1 year, more permanent kind of a retail. Should that be changed? Take the pop-up reference out, since the company is sort of committing not to have a pop-up? Just a thought?
Yes.
Yes, okay. And then the other question, which I think is great, and because it would more be consistent with the conditions. The issue on the signage, and I feel like we had this conversation with the previous tenant not too long ago. How would the signage work? I know there would be signage in the front, I mean, in the context of trying to maintain a retail atmosphere along the street. Obviously, Compass would want to have some signage, but the retailer, Anlaux or whomever, would like to have signage. How do you envision that, and how do you envision the blade sign for the property?
So Compass wants to retain the blade sign in its entirety as Caldwell Banker had it, but we want to co-brand the storefront as is shown in the rendering. There is a more of a stylized rendering within the packet. I don't know, I don't have the actual page number in front.
48.
And we want the retailer to be able to, or we want to maximize the signage for Compass and the retailer. We would size them in parity with one another in terms of the vinyls on the storefront, both on Lincoln as well as in the courtyard. So I think Compass would have signage on Lincoln, vinyl signage on Lincoln in parity with the retailer. The retailer would also have vinyl signage on the first entrance on 564. So those doors would be where they additionally have signage in the courtyard.
Okay. And you'd have, in the case of the art gallery, you'd have potentially artwork displayed in the window or seen through the window or what have you.
Correct, subject to compliance with the zoning code.
Yeah, okay. Good.
You good there, Bob?
Yeah.
Everybody good? Okay, you can sit down.
Thank you.
So in the last I'd like to mention is that when we were at the Plan Commission, obviously, as you know, we had a positive recommendation 4-2. The members that voted against the standard, the special use that they mentioned was continuity. And what we believe is, as the plan has evolved, that we are now providing the continuity in the retail environment on Lincoln. Granted, the majority felt that this is on the fringe and it was less important, but we heard the comments of the people who voted against it, and we wanted to address that. And that's what we're presenting you to you tonight, is that we believe that we're creating that continuity and that this would be a great addition to the overlay district.
Great.
That's all we have.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll open it up for public comment. Would anybody like to comment on this matter? Come on up.
Good evening. I'm Terry Dason. I'm the Executive Director of the Winnetka Northfield Glencoe Chamber of Commerce, and I really enjoyed hearing your presentation. And I think this is the best idea I've heard about this space, having Anlux in the front of Compass, and having it be a permanent space, because the consistency of having a retailer in a location just makes people want to come back. If they know that she's there and that she is a retailer that they can trust and they know and they like, they'll keep shopping with her. And I think this is a great solution for the front of the real estate office. And Anlux does a great job in Glencoe. Her presence is well established and well appreciated by the residents and the retailers that surround her. So I think this will add a lot of enthusiastic interest in Lincoln Avenue. And we do not have any art in Lincoln Avenue or West Elm or East Elm. We only have one gallery now in our village, and so this would be a nice addition. So I support this 100%. Thank you.
Thanks, Terry. Would anybody else like to speak? Seeing none, I'll close public comment and we'll bring it back up here. Anybody want to chime in or share your thoughts?
Well, again, I don't know when it was, but I feel like we had this conversation not too long ago with the other real estate firm, same kind of topics, and we were all enthused about the pop-up store, and it just didn't work, I don't think.
I think it did.
Do you?
Yeah.
I felt like they did not.
Penny was pretty positive on it when she finished with them finally, and they had a good program of rotations.
They rotate?
Yeah,
Okay.
and they were rotating 3 or 4, and Actually, one of them actually jumped off and became a
Permanent tenant
permanent,
somewhere.
yeah.
Well, okay, that's good. So there is demand for that location. I mean, there's no question.
It's a beautiful incubator.
Yeah. And I do think if Ann Laux was able to be secured for that space, it'd be an enormous addition to that area. So I think that's great. Not so enthused about a permanent Compass store, product store, just,
Merch.
for the record. But I don't think that would be the intent either. So, I think this is a really good plan if it can come to fruition. I'd get the pop-up out of the ordinance, and I think it's a positive move.
Great. Anybody else?
Relatedly, I was troubled a little bit about, it sounds like the deal would be a solid one, but the Compass Boutique didn't quite resonate with me, and I'd almost rather have a pop-up if there, for some reason, the deal with Ann or another permanent retailer didn't work. To Chris's point, if the pop-ups really were working, I'd almost rather see a pop-up than a Compass Boutique. But I also think Twisted Trunk is a great option to have somewhere in town. I don't know, I've shopped it there many times in Glenview. It's a great retailer. So, but Ann, sounds like Ann would be a great fit.
Yeah, your questions, Tina,
Well-
were exactly what I was thinking about. How much traffic will there be? And it sounds like it'll be moderate. It sounds like they have the parking situation under control. And the Laux thing kind of makes me feel a little better. So those three are good.
So I love Anne Laux Gallery, right? I mean, I have many of her artists in my house, right? She's like world-class art. My only concern is I just don't want it to be a dead space. I just don't want it to be storage.
I'm sorry?
I don't want it to be dead space. I mean, I just don't want it to be kind of display for art and nothing really going on, right? So that's my only concern.
I think when we let Colwell in a while ago, the discussion here, I don't know what happened at Plan Commission, was really based on the sidewalk experience. Not so much creating vibrancy or anything, but just when you walk by there, you didn't see a copy machine and a bunch of filed cabinets and a conference room. So at that time, council was really concerned about the look.
Yeah.
And I know Penny worked really hard with Colwell because at first they started out and it was lame.
Yeah.
And then we got together with them and explained to them that if they didn't do a better job, that they would lose their special use permit. And then all of a sudden, we had a lot of really good activity over there.
Well, that was the thing. I think that was what's troubled at the Plan Commission this time around as well, is that we didn't have the ability to claw back the special use, right? So when so I think in the end, the Coldwell Banker space was okay, but it is a thorn in the side of many on the Plan Commission still, right? That we didn't have the power to say, oh, you violated the terms of the special use, we're going to take it back. And so although there were pop-ups and they had different, one ended up being, as you said, an incubator, it was frustrating because I actually am in that space a lot. A lot of times it wasn't open. So there would be stuff in the window to activate the window, but it wasn't actually anybody there to sell you anything. And that was the frustration of members. I know Bridget, who's not here tonight, who's a former past chair of the Plan Commission, was very worried about that. It's like, we just don't want it to be another Coldwell Banker. I understand it's a fabulous office space. I disagree with all the, how much space a brokerage is spending, but that's within their right. I think that's just the only concern, is making sure that, we maybe think about how we can have control if, the Ann Laux situation doesn't,
How much time do you want to spend on 740 square feet on Lincoln Avenue?
Well, it's the principle, because it's going to be precedent again. We held our, and that was the debate at the Plan Commission, as you saw from the minutes, right? Some people thought, well, it's on the fringe. Other people said, well, yeah, but, we kind of made that decision in the past and we regretted it. So that was
I guess I'm a
on
little,
the Plan Commission.
from my perspective, I'm a little bit more empathetic to the landlord, only because it's a horrible retail space under any condition.
I understand, especially with all the HOA
And
restrictions, yes.
I don't want to be revisionist in history, but we could thank the Plan Commission of 20 years ago for beating up the architect and the developer to create that space because it was aesthetically pleasing from the street and completely useless as a commercial enterprise. So, and then
I
they
agree.
even gutted it even worse by removing really important uses like restaurants,
Right.
so they could sell the condos. And I understand that completely, but it would have been just as easy to shoot a black iron exhaust up the building when they built it.
Sure.
And they wouldn't have had any problems. But that's Hoffman's problem today, not
Yep.
ours. But it is a god-awful space for retail.
Oh, I totally
around.
get it. And just so everybody understands, at the Plan Commission, the things that they were saying, well, it's a special use, it's hard to, go through. That's why the Beauty Lash was approved, because it's foot traffic. Rather than just having an activated space, it was the idea that they're uses that create foot traffic. So that's just for the benefit. But I think, look, this is 1,000 times better than what was presented at Plan Commission. I really appreciate all the work. And I think having Ann locks there, I just don't want it to be just art hanging in the window and not actually somebody actually being there, occasionally to sell art.
Others? Nothing? Okay. We've asked for public comment. You guys have had your chance for comments, so I'm going to ask for a motion to introduce ordinance number M13, 2023.
So moved?
Second.
This is a voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Just one note, Bob's modifications on the second reading, so that'll show up then. Okay, Bob?
Thank you.
Okay. So we're good to go on that. We'll see you the next time around, couple weeks. All right, moving forward, item 9, old business, there is none. Item 10, new business, there is none. Turning the page. Okay, item 11 is appointments. I have in front of you an appointment to appoint Tim Ring to a full term on the Environmental and Forestry Commission, and his term will expire on August 15th. I met Tim recently in my interactions with the caucus, and he really seemed genuinely interested and engaged on all the things that EFC is working on these days. And anytime I have somebody who seems to have a little passion for something, I got to recruit him and get him in. So, but I spent some time with Tim, and I think he'll be a really good addition to the commission, who's really starting to move into work mode now on our options for the power plant. So it's good to have another good thinker on the commission. So may I have a motion to appoint Tim Ring to the Environmental and Forestry Commission?
So moved.
Voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that carries. Thank you very much. Item 12, closed session. There is none tonight. And item 13 is adjournment. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
Voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We stand adjourned.